Oh, darn it. These things never, 1 second, let me fix this before I. Oh, technology. All right, ready? Okay. All right, so like I said, we're going to be talking about the Pacheco Dam expansion today, not because there's a vote coming up anytime soon, but because it is an interesting thing. And the last vote that we were involved with was for Prop 1 funding for the expansion in December or January, but it also got overshadowed by Sites Reservoir because that was in the same vote, and that was a bigger threat at the time. So Pacheco kind of got overlooked, and then we had a lot of ridiculous votes going on in the spring. So now that we've got the time, let's dive into Pacheco, and I'll show you also, I just did a tour of the proposed expansion site, and I'll talk about that with Katya, who we've got on here. And she's somewhat close to an expert. I won't put her on the spot, but she knows quite a bit. So this will be great. All right, so what is Pacheco Dam? Located on the lower end of North Fork Pacheco Creek, Pacheco's reservoir operational capacity is currently 5,500 acre feet. If you're new to water world, acre feet, 1 acre foot is the size of a football field. Pacheco Dam was built in 1939. The program creating the dam expansion. Oh, if someone could mute themselves.
Katie, I was just pointing out it's the size of an acre of football field, a foot deep in water.
Yes, a foot deep. Good idea. Yeah, foot deep. Thank you for that. The program creating the dam expansion was first passed by voters in 2000 as the Clean, Safe Creeks and Natural Flood Protection Plan. Then it was renewed again in 2012, and then the renewal of that program continued to provide about $47 million for local projects in the Santa Clara County. But when they were evaluating ways to improve the program, a lot of the feedback from community members said that they wanted reliability. And then that was the inspiration for the dam. So in November 2020, voters in Santa Clara County overwhelmingly approved Measure S, which is a renewal of that program, which sounded like it was going to include a lot of things. And it, there's some question about if it'll actually provide reliability, but this was one of the projects that came up through that Measure S. The expanded reservoir project includes the construction of an earthen dam made of rock and soil upstream of the existing dam, then a pump station, a pipeline, and other supporting items. The expanded reservoir would be filled by a combination of rainfall, runoff from the watershed upstream of the new dam, and imported water supplies. Water released from the reservoir will flow through Pacheco Creek before seeping into the underground groundwater aquifer as it winds towards where it meets the Pacheco River. The aquifer fed by Pacheco Reservoir begins at its northern tip in Santa Clara County and extends south into the San Benito County. Agricultural users served by Pacheco Pass and San Benito County water districts pump water from this aquifer. A collaboration between Valley Water, the San Benito County Water District, and the Pacheco Pass Water District, the Pacheco Reservoir Expansion Project is a proposal to enlarge the storage capacity of the existing reservoir. Pacheco Reservoir Expansion would significantly enlarge the footprint of the existing reservoir, flooding an additional 1,500 acres. The project will destroy oak and sycamore forests and riparian habitat in the reservoir footprint, create new barriers to wildlife migration, and negatively impact water quality in Pacheco Creek, the Pacheco River, and Monterey Bay. Moreover, the dam proponent, Santa Clara Valley Water District, aka Valley Water, has admitted that this project would not guarantee water storage during longer drought periods or offer reliable water supplies. A pretty key point there. The project is currently in the planning phase, reviewing the comments submitted to the draft EIR in preparation for the final EIR. Located 60 miles southeast of San Jose, they expect to start construction in 2024, maybe 2025, and finish in 2032. The project right now is projected to cost $2.5 billion. The draft EIR states approximately 5,600 acres and 28,000 acres of designated critical habitat are within the project study area and the assessment area, which is in 1 mile of the project study area. Overall, the draft EIR identifies 13 significant and unavoidable impacts of the project, 4 of which relate to cultural and tribal resources. Here's a map of the projected impact area. You can see it's a really large size of an expansion, and that a chunk of it is going to be overlapping with Henry Coe State Park. The expansion, so, you know, we talk about the tunnel all the time. That's our main focus. So how are these related? Well, the expansion relies on exports from the San Francisco Bay Delta. This could strain the already fragile ecosystem and in no way will advance the long-term objectives of restoring ecological health and improving water management for beneficial uses of the Delta, which was a requirement of the Delta Reform Act in 2009. That act was meant to protect the Delta, but a lot of projects have been popping up since then that do not jive with that act. Dam expansion construction would begin the same year as the proposed Delta Conveyance Project would begin. And this is something we've said to DWR many, many times, that they never really seem to look at DWR, the Department of Water Resources for the state. We've said many times that they don't really look at the compounded impact. So they might look at one project in a silo and say, okay, well, these are the problems with the tunnel. Then they might look at the dam reservoir expansion and say, okay, here's the problems with Pacheco, or they'll look at sites and say, here's the problem with sites, but they never really look at the compounded effects of all of these different projects, of climate change, of other, you know, spillage and, you know, runoff in other areas. They don't look at all these many different things that could be impacting the Delta at the same time. And sometime in the fall, they told us, okay, you're right, you've said it enough. We're going to start looking at that. But I haven't heard anyone mention yet the fact that the construction here will be starting at in the same year, you know, if everything passes in the same year for both Pacheco and for the tunnel. And considering the impact that construction has on air quality, on water quality, and a lot of other things, this could end up being a really big problem. So Pacheco and the tribes. Well, the proposed dam inundation area is really rich in cultural resources. The area includes indigenous sites over 3,000 years old where generations lived, died, and now they rest in peace. And significant cultural resources continue to be identified all the time as they investigate concerning the dam. These items have been repatriated to Amah-Mutsun tribal band representatives, and then those folks rebury these items. Disturbing these irreplaceable cultural resources really shows a lack of respect for California's tribes and would foreclose future archaeological research. It is a huge violation, disturbing our ancestors and bringing their remains back from the spirit world, said Valentin Lopez of Galt. She's the chairman of the Amah-Mutsun Land Trust, which represents the historic tribal role of that region. If those remains were not Native American, it would be considered a graveyard. Construction would stop. Instead, we're looking at mitigation instead, digging them up and burying them somewhere else. They destroyed our culture, environment, and spirituality, and it continues today. Pete Anderson, who's a conservative Republican, cares for a ranch in the area, and for decades, he's fiercely protected the artifacts from theft by hunters. A 10-minute walk down this creek is a marvel, he said. You see bedrock mortars every 300 yards, where for hundreds of years, Ohlone women gathered and talked while grinding acorns while the stream flowed past. Once a week, you'd find human remains, he added. It is one of the places where the last holdout of non-mission Indians were. They went up there to hide. Any politician who votes to support this just lost their environmental credibility. To take this vital heritage and develop it for water so someone else can have a golf course, it really boggles the mind. So you can see that an issue this important, it upsets people on both sides of the spectrum here, and something that is just not getting the depth and weight that it deserves. So we recently took a tour of Pacheco Dam's proposed expansion site, and I did want to show you some of the plants and critters that we saw. So I actually took these photos when we went on a little hike with Friends of the River and Center for Biological Diversity, so we could get a good idea of what's at stake here. So this pretty little purple fellow that you see here is called a splendid Mariposa lily. And on the right is a regular Mariposa lily. Wow, so beautiful. And then what you see here on your left is called an Ithuriel's spear. And this cute little thing on the right is a fairy lantern, which I think is just the perfect name for that, fairy lantern. And then we saw 3 snakes, 2 different varieties. What you see on the right, we thought was a garter snake, but it's actually a striped racerback, and it's harmless, just a little cutie sunbathing on the rock there. And then on the bottom left, you can kind of see what looked like a rattlesnake, got a little spooky for a second, but it's actually a gopher snake, and its job is just to eat gophers. That's all it was trying to do. It really just kind of patiently waited for us to pass and then went along its day. And what you see up here in the top left corner, well, we thought it was a cute fuzzy little bee. It's actually called the red velvet ant, but it's not an ant, it's a wasp. And it's actually a venomous wasp, and its venom can take down an entire cow. It probably wouldn't kill an adult human, but it would make us very sick and wouldn't be good news for smaller children. And here we were thinking that snake was the harm, but the whole time it was what we thought was a cute little bee that we were playing with. That's where the true danger was. And then here are just some sites, some photos of the area that we toured. And unfortunately, a lot of this would end up being underwater, including some of those cute little critters if they couldn't get out of the way. This would be underwater with the proposed expansion site. So let's talk about some special status animals. What you see here are a golden eagle and a San Joaquin kit fox. They're included in the list of special status. So that could mean endangered or extremely endangered, mildly endangered animals, but a lot of these animals are local only to this area. And this list includes the American badger, bald eagle, bay checker spot butterfly, California red-legged frog, California tiger salamander, foothill yellow-legged frog, which I believe I also saw there, the foothill yellow-legged frog, golden eagles, laced bell's vireo, prairie falcon, San Joaquin kit fox, tricolored blackbird, and the western pond turtle. Beautiful animals, and they're all in danger with this proposed expansion site. It sounds like someone is maybe not muted, so if you see that you're not muted, go ahead and mute yourselves. That would be great. There's also some fantastic plants that are also special status that are threatened or endangered in this region, including the coyote ceanothus, Loma prieta hoita, most beautiful jewel flower, that's really its name, the Mount Hamilton thistle, the rock sanicle, the Santa Clara Valley dudleya, smooth lozenge, and Tiburon Indian paintbrush. Really pretty creatures here. So, and this might get a little technical and jargony, bear with me, but the environmental impact of this project will be much greater than any supposed environmental benefits to fish on Pacheco Creek and wildlife refuges in San Joaquin Valley. Any proponent of this project is always going to say, well, there's benefits to the fish and the wildlife, and that's just, the researchers prove that any benefit does not outweigh the harm. The project will result in the loss of hundreds of acres of oak and sycamore forest and acres of riparian, as well as barriers to wildlife migration created by new roads, by pipelines and power lines. It is not possible to mitigate these impacts. We hear all the time that project proponents say, well, we can mitigate, we can do restoration, we can move some animals over here, over there, but that's just not possible when you create some certain very permanent impacts. The project will introduce poor quality Central Valley Project water into Pacheco Creek, the Pacheco River, and Monterey Bay, which will likely harm water quality and therefore fish and other water dependent species in these ecosystems. San Luis Reservoir has poor water quality, and Central Valley Project water has contributed to water quality issues such as algae blooms in Calera Reservoir, and which stores CVP water on its way to the Valley Waters treatment plants. The Water Commission staff report, they looked into it, created a staff report, and the report outlines numerous concerns with supposed ecosystem benefits of the project, which are supposed to offset the lengthy list of environmental impacts. Notably, after identifying 4 concerns regarding the supposed nearly $2 billion ecosystem benefits to Pacheco Creek, staff conclude that they cannot judge whether the planned physical ecosystem benefit of the project is or is not worth the alternative cost. There is simply no evidence regarding willingness to pay for steelhead that supports either result. So essentially, the state said, we can't prove yet that that this would be worth it in terms of benefits. The proposed new reservoir is not consistent with the plain text reading of management for state parks. The proposed reservoir level would fluctuate according to seasonal and interannual demand, operations, and availability of water. It's not proposed to mimic a natural lake with a stable and full pool water elevation. In these circumstances, the upper ends and sides of reservoirs experience bathtub rings, which is what you see here, barren of permanent vegetation. When exposed, the barren areas may be bare or may be ephemerally colonized by weedy. So, some time of the year they might have weeds, but sometimes not so much, and predominantly non-native vegetation, much in conflict with the native environmental complexes that the Department of Parks and Recreation is supposed to restore, protect, and maintain. So that is their job and their duty to maintain and protect these things. And this project would, be adverse to that. For instance, this drone view of San Luis Reservoir here, that's what you're looking at from the visitor center, shows an example of that barren bathtub, and that's from man-made reservoirs. Nothing in the draft EIR, and if I haven't said yet, EIR stands for Environmental Impact Review. So nothing in the draft EIR primary objectives or in their secondary objectives meet the purposes for improvements, which is specified in state law. Instead, the improvements involve a major modification of lands, forests, or waters of approximately 4,750 feet of the North Pacheco Creek Canyon within Henry Cove Park, State Park, for the benefit of the project proponents. Therefore, the proposed project does not meet the objectives prescribed by the legislature for state parks, and State Park Code expressly forbids improvements contemplated in the proposed project. The project would inundate and destroy terrestrial and aquatic habitat covering approximately 1,500 acres within the undeveloped Diablo Range, devastating the habitat of numerous special status species and overall biodiversity. In addition to the habitat loss due to inundation, the construction of roads and new infrastructure will sever ecosystems and inhibit species movement and proliferation. The draft EIR's treatment of wildlife and wildlife connectivity is legally inadequate for 2 reasons. First, the draft EIR fails to accurately describe the baseline condition and the presence of special status species and wildlife connectivity. So they never actually did anything to describe what's already there, how are things already going, what's a baseline to compare, and they have not done adequate work to look into the special status of these species. Second, the draft EIR does not adequately mitigate the project's significant impacts. We as in Sierra Club and our allies have demanded that Valley Water must remedy these failures before they do any moving forward in the environmental review process. The ability of wildlife to move between distinct habitat areas is critical to both individual and population survival. The project includes the construction of facility structures, power lines, 45 miles of roads, and of which 37.6 miles would be permanent. Yet the draft EIR fails to adequately provide analysis of the impacts of those structures or roads on wildlife connectivity or any biological resources. Adding multiple roads and structures, building a new dam upstream, and expanding the existing reservoir from 5,500 acre feet to 140,000 acre feet and inundating approximately 1,500 acres of contiguous habitat will have significant impacts on existing wildlife connectivity throughout the area. And connectivity, just to clarify, is the ability from an animal to migrate within certain regions. It doesn't even have to be a very large region, just the ability to move freely through its land. Roads and development create barriers that lead to habitat loss and fragmentation, which harm native wildlife, plants, and people. As barriers to wildlife movement, poorly planned development and roads can affect an animal's behavior, their movement patterns, their reproductive success, and physiological state, which can lead to significant impacts on individual wildlife, populations, communities, landscapes, and ecosystem function. For example, habitat fragmentation from roads and development has been shown to cause mortalities and harmful genetic isolation in Central Coast and Southern California mountain lions, increase local extinction risk in amphibians and reptiles, and cause high levels of avoidance behavior and mortality in birds and insects, and alter pollinator behavior and degrade habitats. Habitat fragmentation also severely impacts plant communities. An 18-year study found that reconnected landscapes had nearly 14% more plant species compared to fragmented habitats, and that number is likely to continue to rise as time passes. The authors conclude that efforts to preserve and enhance connectivity will pay off over the long term. In addition, connectivity between high-quality habitat areas in heterogeneous landscapes is important to allow for range shifts and species migrations as climate changes. Loss of wildlife connectivity has negative impacts on special status species, it decreases biodiversity, and it really degrades ecosystems. The draft EIR erroneously concludes that the proposed project would have less than significant impacts on mountain lions, and that's just not true. Beyond the legal shortcomings, such a conclusion is unsubstantiated and not found in any available science. The draft EIR fails to adequately assess and mitigate impacts to special status amphibians and reptiles. Habitat loss and lack of connectivity threaten these vulnerable, less mobile species. It's a lot harder to run away from a big project pipeline when your legs are only 2 inches long. For example, state roads threaten all native turtle and tortoise species, 72% of snake species, 50% of frog and toad species, 18% of lizard species, and 17% of salamander species. So beyond the environmental impacts for folks out there, no one here, but for folks out there who don't care about the environment, it's also a very expensive project. The proposed Pacheco Dam project is expected to cost an astronomical $2.5 billion or more. Local ratepayers would bear most of that cost. Other than the Delta Tunnel, it's the most expensive project currently being considered by Valley Water. In addition, while Valley Water is assuming that it can locate project partners to share in at least 20% of the cost, those project partners have not yet materialized. So local ratepayers and statewide taxpayers will ultimately be responsible for project costs. In 2017, Valley Water, Pacheco Pass Water District, and the San Benito County Water District collaborated in securing $485 million of the $1 billion project cost to increase Pacheco Reservoir storage capacity. And then funding to expand Pacheco Reservoir was secured from California's Water Quality Supply and Infrastructure Improvement Act of 2014. The act, passed by state voters as Prop 1, provided $2.7 billion for investments in surface and groundwater storage projects under the Act's Water Storage Investment Program. In early 2021, the Pacheco project was awarded about $12 million in additional funding from Prop 1, bringing the total to now about $486 million. So that's what they have so far. Since the initial 2017 application, the cost of Pacheco Dam has more than doubled. Already, San Jose residents' overall cost of living is estimated to be 215% higher than the US average. The State Water Board recently found local water rates were among the most unaffordable in the state. Rates are expected to rise substantially due to the cost of the Pacheco project. Financing this dam will more than triple Valley Water's debt, explained Dr. Jeffrey Michael, who has a PhD in economics. In his recent report, which he submitted to the California Water Commission, He explained that Valley Water's application for the Pacheco Dam did not follow established standards for valuing public benefits, and that the ecosystem benefits claimed by Valley Water were not justified. When the cost of building the dam doubled, Valley Water claims the alleged environmental benefits of the dam also doubled, and that's ridiculous and wrong. Overall, Dr. Michael found that the project benefits are likely being overestimated by a factor of 7 or more. 7 or more. So very expensive. Good luck to folks living in Valley Water. Extraordinary costs for this project signal further cost escalation and unacceptable water charge increases in the future. Overinvesting in costly capital projects will overburden ratepayers and taxpayers. With the Pacheco project, groundwater charges in northern Santa Clara County will increase by about 145% over the next 10 years, not including increases in charges from water retailers. Without the project, that increase would be about 110%. So, with climate change, it's not going to be perfect, but that is a 35% difference for this project alone. Any reduction in rate increases makes a difference for low-income customers. The commission report specifically noted that staff cannot determine whether or not Santa Clara County households are actually willing to pay this much for the benefits they would receive. So this is not a financially feasible or responsible way to approach any publicly funded project. Even Valley Water's own internal analysis showed that the project is one of the highest risk projects, as you can see here, under consideration in their 2040 water supply master plan. So this is a figure from their water supply master plan, and they're aware that this is a pretty risky project and risky use of folks' money. So the future of Pacheco. Well, the Pacheco Dam project has changed in significant ways subsequent to the initial application for public funds in 2017, and their eligibility determination has kind of changed a bit too with that. Seismic issues caused the dam proposal to be moved upstream and thus collide with Henrico State Park, which then kind of changed some of the laws around this project and some of the ways that we can kind of attack this project. So the project fails to meet water and park codes. Sierra Club and many of our allies have made this and the following arguments to the State Water Commission and in comments on the draft AIR, which are still under review. Henrico State Park is located in California's foothills and low coastal mountains and is a significant example of the coastal range listed by California Geologic Survey as one of California's 11 geomorphic provinces. At 87,000 acres, this park is a significant part of the southern coast range where large expanses of public lands are comparatively rare. The northeastern portion of Henrico State Park includes California's second largest state wilderness area. Developments permissible in state park units must fit through a very narrow lens, and this lens is really too narrow for a reservoir to fit through. Improvements undertaken within state parks shall be for the purpose of making the areas available for public enjoyment and education in a manner consistent with the preservation of natural, scenic, cultural, and ecological values for present and future generations. Improvements that do not directly enhance the public's enjoyment of the natural, scenic, cultural, or ecological values of the resource, which are attractions in themselves or which are otherwise available to the public, shall not be undertaken within state parks. So essentially, this reservoir does not meet any of those requirements for a state park and therefore should not be in the state park. Another code says that no new facility may be developed in any unit of the state park system unless it's compatible with the classification of the unit, which we just said it's not. CEQA mandates that significant environmental damage be avoided or substantially lessened where feasible. Unfortunately, the draft EIR fails to meet this requirement by putting forth alternatives that are all infeasible, either technically or legally. Therefore, the draft EIR fails to include a reasonable range of alternatives, which is in violation of CEQA. The draft EIR's alternative analysis is inadequate and misleading because both the proposed project and some alternatives call for the construction of a hard fill dam, which is technologically infeasible. So like I said, it's proposed is an earthen dam, so made of dirt and soil, but some of the alternatives call for hard fill dam. So now that's basically making that option unavailable. The Department of Water Resources Division of Safety of Dams, or DSOD, reviewed the project's design concepts for a hard-fill dam, which would be the largest hard-fill dam in the United States, and declined to approve the Valley Waters concept. So Henrico State Park is classified as a state park. The purpose of state parks, legally and technically, shall be to preserve outstanding natural, scenic, and cultural values, indigenous aquatic and terrestrial fauna and flora, and the most significant examples of ecological regions of California. The purpose of state parks is not to warehouse lands to be made available in the future for reservoirs to be built by and for the benefit of a nearby water district. Such facilities are in conflict with the actual purposes of state parks and are thus prohibited. The proposed unlawful occupation of Henrico State Park is not included in the areas of known controversy. So basically, this draft EIR is just full of issues. The comments have been made on the draft EIR. So where we are now, we're looking at this timeline. So these comments have been made on the draft EIR this winter. It's currently undergoing more feasibility studies. The project would still need approval from the governing agencies and then approval by Valley Water to move forward with the next phase of funding and permitting before construction can begin in 2024 or 2025. The bottom line is that, like the Delta Tunnel or Sites Reservoir, Pacheco is not an essential project. Valley Water has alternatives to reliably meet water demands. And with all these other water supply projects underway, climate scientists predict more dry years. Pacheco could easily become another stranded asset, another item that the public pays for that's not actually getting used. Valley Water is moving forward with many projects to improve water supply reliability that are sufficient for the current planning horizon through 2040, including expanded use of recycled water, potable reuse, and the Los Vaqueros Reservoir Expansion, and retrofitting existing dams. So they've got a lot of other things that they're already planning to do. And this project just isn't necessary or reliable. Here's another smart person just essentially saying what I just said. I did find this awesome t-shirt. If anyone is interested in purchasing a t-shirt that benefits the coalition, you can find this shirt at stoppachecodam.org. Look at all those colors you got there. It's pretty cool. I just ordered one. And here's some additional resources if you would like to read more, and I'm happy to send you anything that I've read or used and send you any other resources. So, questions, comments, other thoughts? Karen?
I just wondered if anyone in that EIR had commented on the issue of the methane that's released on an ongoing, fairly, as I understand it, large amount whenever you flood lands like this, because the research I've seen is that there's a growing concern about that, and dams keep being seen as less and less green because of methane. And we've been told by the IPCC and other scientists that we've got to address methane urgently because it's a short-term but high greenhouse gas.
Yeah, I forgot, you've mentioned that before. I didn't get a clear answer on the tour, but I'll look into that for you. Katya, do you know anything about the methane and how much they looked into that in the EIR?
Yeah, I'd just be interested in knowing, because it sounds like it's a really a growing concern in the science community in terms of how projects like this are analyzed.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, yes, this is Katya, and yeah, we made that comment in our scoping comments, and it was covered in the EIR, and so yeah, that actually was analyzed in the draft EIR.
Good, thank you.
Great, thanks, Katya. Nancy?
I was confused. Is it this is state park, Henry something I missed? State park.
Henrico?
Pardon, Henry?
Henrico State Park?
Okay, and how do you spell co?
COE.
Okay, the way it sounds. And the Pacheco Dam is in the park or?
It's near it, and then the expansion is going to like creep its way into the park. I can pull up the map again.
Right.
There wouldn't be any construction within the park, but if the dam gets completely full, it would inundate parts of the park.
Right, got it. That's what I thought. Thank you.
I pulled it up. I will share that, and then Sydney, you can ask your question while I'm sharing the map.
So, I hear that there are better projects going on that you said Valley Water or some agencies are funding, but it also kind of, this Pacheco Dam thing also kind of worries me because I don't know if I heard right, if it's not as bad of an environmental impact as the Delta Tunnel would be, but it just, in the beginning, it sounded kind of like just another useless water project that they're trying to push through that's going to devastate the environment like the Delta Tunnel. And like, I just want to clarify, is that true, or is there less of a chance of this project happening or being funded, or will it not be as bad? Like, I don't really know how to explain my question.
I know what you're trying to ask. I mean, in terms of like what's a worse project, I think it depends on who you're talking to and what area is impacted. So this is both of these projects take water from the Delta region. So they're both taking water. So anything that takes water causes harm to the overall region. And then and then when you look at the construction, so here you've got the construction impact over in this region, which is 60 miles of San Jose. So it's further west of where the Delta Tunnel would be built. That's closer to Stockton and Hood and those areas. So the construction is in different places, and then the type of construction is different. The tunnel construction would take longer, and it's arguably big. Well, it's bigger. The pipeline there is bigger, and then this expansion, it would be flooding more habitat. So that's a different kind of problem from the tunnel. So let's look at what they have in common, what's not in common. So they're both taking water from the Delta region, and then what they don't have in common is the bigger pipeline and that kind of construction. So they need to dig down deep into the water and remove muck. And then you've got the truck trips, which are a big part of the problem for the tunnel. And then over here, you've got the flooding of habitat, and then whether they build the hard fill dam or the earthen dam, that's going to cause some problems there. And then a lot of the water, pumping Central Valley Project water through Pajara River, that's not good quality water, and that's bringing yucky stuff out to ecosystems that need it. So that is a water quality issue of contamination. And then when you look at the tunnel, the contamination, there's some, contamination there too, but the water quality issue there is having less water means we're going to get HABs, harmful algal blooms. So, I mean, it's similar but different problems, but yes, you're right about them all being bad and that there are always better alternatives to these things.
So did I hear in the beginning, I thought I heard somebody say like one of the water agencies or somebody said, you know what, you guys are right, let's start looking at this.
Well, the Valley Water said that they know it's not reliable. I don't think anyone can claim any major imported water project is reliable anymore. Some are still trying to say that, but climate change, this water is just it's not going to be there anymore. So they're aware of that. Some of them will just say that they're running out of options. Yeah, they're aware that it's not a reliable source of water.
So when's the big vote on this? How can we stop it?
The next big, well, it depends on what, like there are different votes for different components of the project. Let me check that timeline again. So we've got, so we just gave comments on the EAR and they're working on feasibility studies and other things. Eventually there's going to be a public benefits contract, which I think we can comment on. And then the permitting, that'll be, yeah, permitting will probably be the next big vote, I would imagine, which is, looks like late 2024 and approval. So that we could, you know, comment there on, hey, don't permit this and don't approve it. And then we also need to tell Valley Water, hey, folks who live here do not want to pay for it. So that's something that we'd be commenting on. And then, of course, the big vote would be when construction begins, but we might be able to also comment on whatever the other environmental documents are, maybe Army Corps of Engineer. We'll see. Whoever else is doing documents, we can comment then as well. And then, like they said, San Benito County and other, and Pacheco Pass, if there are other folks who want to participate, when they have votes on how much to offer towards participation, those are things we can comment on as well.
So what is the next opportunity that we can comment on Pacheco Dam and like why we shouldn't do this?
It looks like it would be late 2023, Katya, unless you know something else.
So quite a while.
Well, you know, there are going to be updates to the board about different parts of the project and their water supply planning. So more information will be coming out, and we don't really know exactly. Well, they do a yearly update on their water supply planning in like October, November. So that's always been an opportunity to comment. And there also, you know, maybe budget adjustments or new information coming out, you know, about partners. Right now, I haven't heard of anybody wanting to be a partner on this project. It's just a really bad project. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can get the partnership they want, which I believe, Katie, you said 20%, but I think they've actually upped the percentage that they're trying to get so that it makes their budget look better.
I'll bet.
Yeah, so it's just got so many problems, and so, you know, new items, and they also have a committee of the board called the Storage Exploratory Committee, and they're always talking about different projects there. So if anything comes up on any of the agendas that I see, I will let I always let you know, Sierra Club California staff know about it.
Thank you, Katya. Yeah, that's much appreciated.
So
Yeah,
when you say that nobody wants to partner so far, does that mean that other water agencies, are we talking about them partnering, or who are we talking about?
Yeah,
Not wanting to partner.
Yeah, they're trying to get people to buy into the storage. So it's supposed to be 140,000 acre feet. And I think that, you know, 5,000 to 10,000 acre feet already belongs to San Benito County because they have the existing reservoir. And then Valley Water would take about 70,000, 60, 70,000. So they're still trying to get people to buy into like 50,000 acre feet or something of storage to help pay for it.
does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess.
But yeah, we can comment on other updates. There's actually going to be a tunnel update at the Delta Independent Science Board, so we'll probably comment there as well sometime soon, next week or the week. Yeah, next week. You'll get an email. And then Linda, you want to know if Earth Justice is looking into it. I don't know. Katya, do you know if Earth Justice is part of the coalition?
No, I mean, they're mostly a legal firm, like they mostly sue on things, and Sierra Club works with them on lawsuits. They actually used to be Sierra Club's kind of legal lawsuit arm almost, but they're more independent now. But no, they haven't gotten involved yet, but I've been, there will be lawsuits, so we'll see. But Center for Biological Diversity, Native Plant Society, Audubon, a lot of people like that are involved.
Yeah, Friends of the River, the Amah-Mutsun Tribe, probably other tribes. Yeah. Yeah, and Nancy, you're right that picture they took was probably the picture they took showing the rings was probably when the area was at its best. So right now in June, it's probably looking pretty rough. By the end of the summer, it's gonna look even worse.
August.
August.
Another thing is that this Pacheco Dam, the website where you can buy the t-shirts,
Mhm.
that's actually one of the landowners whose land is going to be inundated, and their family has owned it for generations, and they're really fighting it. So that's been, over the past year or so. I mean, the project's actually been going on for about 5-6 years, but over the last year or two, the landowner has really gotten involved. So that's been very helpful as well.
Yep. We work with their lawyers a lot on a lot of different Delta issues. They know their stuff.
So I guess to kind of explain a little clearer, first it was that we were up against the Delta Tunnel. Now we're up against the Delta Tunnel and Sites Reservoir, and now we're up against Delta Tunnel, Sites Reservoir, and Pacheco Dam. And I'm just worried about how we're gonna win because it keeps feeling like a constant losing battle in a way.
Well, it's not like any of these things are brand new. We're just exploring more of the connection between all of them. And then, if we can make a dent in this area, can we also impact here? And I think that we're also trying to connect the dots for decision makers. So like Metropolitan Water District, especially being so far south, they don't really think about a lot of what happens north of them and the interconnectivity and how it impacts people who don't live in their constituent area. If they don't vote for them, do they care? Well, we're saying, yeah, you should care. And here's how these different things play off each other. Because all of these projects that we look at, they all take water from the Delta region, and that's a problem. So looking at that, we try to highlight that to decision makers, but also to the public in general. And Sydney, you always ask me if this is making an impact. Of course, it's making an impact. And I mean, these things, first of all, the public notice has grown. The fact that we're talking about the LA Times and articles that they put out today on the work that we've been doing, that's huge. And I mean, I'm seeing
They put out wait, the LA Times put out an article about what we're doing?
They put out an article on Sites Reservoir because we've been hounding them so much and because we've been talking to them.
Oh, I don't remember hearing that. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. They didn't say everything we want them to say, and that's the nature of journalists trying to be objective. But we're gonna keep fighting, and we're in it for the long run. This is a marathon; it's not a sprint. So, we're seeing the progress. We see the board members slowly turning over, but there's a lot of different angles that we need to attack this from. So, any other questions, comments?
Hi, this is Katya. I just wanted to say there's another reservoir too that's kind of come up even more recently called Del Puerto Dam.
Mm-hmm.
That's between where Pacheco is and the Delta. So there's a lot of damaging projects going forward because of the Prop 1 money. I don't think, well, Del Puerto didn't get Prop 1 money initially, but I don't think these projects would all be going forward if it wasn't for Prop 1.
Yeah, maybe I'll
And
do a
they all
webinar.
depend on they all depend on the tunnels. Like if the tunnels doesn't happen, none of these projects really pencil out at all. I mean, as if they do to begin with.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we'll do Del Puerto Dam for our next webinar. And on Prop 1, we've talked about it before. Sierra Club was somewhere for, somewhere against Prop 1 in 2014 because we knew it could fund a lot of good projects, but it had the potential to fund some bad projects. And that's essentially what ended up happening. It does fund some other good and necessary improvements to infrastructure, but it's also funding bad projects like this. So part of the discussion is we need to help fight for better projects, which is something that we're doing. Some of our allies have been having that discussion with Met, and I think that's something that we're going to talk about more now that, hey, if you need help getting grants and funding because your budget is kind of a mess, if you need help getting grants for that, maybe that's something we'll start helping them with more of, help show support for funding for specific projects. So that might be something that we do. And Katya's right. I mean, at the end of the day, the Delta Tunnel moves all of the water, all of these reservoirs and dams, and they're all connected. So we gotta kill that tunnel.
I have an idea, just for kind of like an uplifter. Is there
Sure.
any way, do you know like how many millions of dollars have water agencies like Valley Water and MWD, how much have they actually funded in projects that are good projects that we like stormwater capture, recycled water, groundwater recharge, conservation, like how much have they actually funded in good projects that will benefit the greater good and the environment?
That might take me a second to find, but they definitely do. I mean, they're not all bad. They certainly fund quite a bit of LRPs. So they're not able to fund, right now, they're not able to fund any new projects for the next 2 years, but they fund a lot of local resource projects, which are projects that generally belong to local member agencies. But there's been some talk of, doing more of their own projects. The way Met is like the ownership of the regional recycled water project. That's something they're doing in partnership with LA Sanitation. And everyone is a supporter of that on both sides of the aisle. Everyone likes that project. Newsom likes it. We like it. So,
You
that's
said
something.
LA Sanitation Project?
They are a partner of it. Yes.
And so what is this project? Is this the recycled water?
Yeah, this is a recycled water plant. We've talked about it a few times, but it's the one that's making direct potable water from some not so potable water. It's impressive. It's pretty big. when it
Are
happens.
all local resource projects good, or isn't there some bad ones out there?
I'm sure they're not all good, and a pipeline is never, it's never great. It always does some kind of harm to the environment, but sometimes some projects are necessary. Sometimes when there's nothing else that can be done, we have to say, yep, all right, if you've got no other option, do what you got to do. So some projects are certainly better than others.
That's good.
Yeah. All right, any other questions, comments?
Sorry, I'm hopping on here late, but I'm meeting with the Kepler Bookstore webinar with Bill McGibbons, and his third act
Oh, fantastic.
organization. So check out that, just Google that, check it out. It's for the over 60.
Bill McGibbons, great.
Yeah, he started a new group here in Silicon Valley.
Oh, nice. If you want to put it in the chat, you can. If you
Oh,
like.
sure. Thank you so much. Sorry, I've been absent without leave.
Do what you gotta do, no pressure. So we've got, we recorded this, so it'll be on the website.
Okay.
Our communications guy is a little busy right now, but it'll be on the website soon. So you can watch it again, and I can send you my slides and notes if you like.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. All right, any other questions, comments?
That'd be great if you send your slides or put them on the website.
Sure, yeah. All right, and I will, I will email those to you because I have my slides and notes separately. Otherwise, you would see all my notes. It
Okay,
would take up the whole screen, so I'll send them to you, but
thank you. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem. And otherwise, next week, just a reminder that we're going to be starting to plan out our strategy for the project we're doing this summer, which I probably won't talk about too much now that we're recording, but just a reminder, next week, we're going to do that if you're able to join. And even if you don't think that you're able to meet up in person yet with COVID or whatever else is going on, then we still want to hear your ideas. So your thoughts are still welcome.
Oh,
that'll
that
be-
reminds me. I just want to let you know I may not actually be able to join next week.
Okay, no worries. We can always catch up. We'll be here the week after that. So
Will that be in Sacramento?
this will be virtual, just like this. But in terms of the in-person stuff, that'll be all over the state. So
Am I gonna be missing out on a huge thing next week?
no, just some planning. We can figure something out. All right. Well, thanks, folks. Thanks for joining us. And Katya, thanks for helping out with all of your Pacheco knowledge. Much appreciated. And otherwise, have a great week, folks. Take
Thank
care of
you.
yourselves. Stay hydrated. Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bzz.